In this video, I'd like to offer you more ideas that you can easily use every day as you continue to let go of fear and embrace the simple concept of trusting yourself, trusting others, trusting life a little bit more. And through your new actions and subsequent reactions, you'll notice that the world doesn't end if you say no, or yes, or I don't know, or even if you mess up. You know, the fearful stories of the mind are just that, they're stories. And soon you'll develop the attitude that it's okay for you to not know what will happen next in any moment. It's okay for you to not know what will happen in the future. How could you know, right? And your mind doesn't know either. So as you become less addicted to your thoughts and you learn how to be calmer, and you begin to decide what you want from life, when a random event happens, you'll be able to keep your wits about you. You'll be able to make decisions in line with your intentions. Plus, if whatever action you take doesn't pan out well, which often it won't because we don't have hindsight, you'll not beat yourself up or care about what others may think, because you'll know that you did the best you could in that moment for you. At least you tried. I think the universe likes people who try. They say fortune favours the brave. It just seems to be how life is. You are consciously becoming your own most positive cheerleader, advancing your ability to ignore the unconscious mind's doubtful thoughts and the body's resulting emotions. Now, before I teach you those techniques, I would like to share with you a simple model I designed for any person who is struggling to find purpose or meaning in their life. Because long periods of anxiety or depression can often leave a person feeling very detached from who they are and what they want. They're either exhausted from running around meeting everybody's needs, or detached and lost from fearfully hiding away from life. So a simple model that you might adopt until you know what your real purpose is might be this. If we take everything back to basics, as an animal, our biological reason to exist is probably to survive long enough to reproduce, to have children, to help them grow up, and to teach them the practical skills, life skills that they need so they can go on and do the same. Put simply, to propagate the species. Then of course we could jump to the other end of the spectrum, where a more advanced perspective might be that we humans are the expression of our world, and our purpose is to learn how to nurture and protect everything on this planet, whilst creating happy, flourishing communities that live in harmony and connect with nature and look after each other. Probably, I guess, somewhere between those two extremes will be your purpose, whatever that is, whenever you know what it is. So I think it's good to have purpose in life, even if it's only a temporary one that you borrow until such a time that you do know what you want from life. And remember that anxiety and OCD, they make you doubt everything. They make you seek reassurance. They make you fear failing, which makes it very hard for you to make relevant decisions, that will enable you to take action in any moment. But if you can have a purpose, this enables you to make decisions and keep yourself focused in the direction you wish to go. Because in any moment you can say, regardless of what my anxious mind and my nervous body are doing, which actions do I need to take in this moment that will align with my purpose, keep me on that trajectory, my intention, my dream of who I want to be and what I want to be doing. Basically, the decision is made for you. Is this action in line with my purpose? If so, yes. And if not, then no. So I think it can be very powerful to borrow a purpose temporarily and then use it as a tool to extract ourselves from our current situation. And then from a new place of neutrality and calmness, we can then further explore what we truly want from life. Now, if we jump back to my first statement, that the reason humans are here is to propagate the species, that would make us replicators. We make little replicas of ourselves, our children, which we then program during their childhood with all our knowledge, our ideologies, religions, cultural norms, values, beliefs, just as our parents did with us. And as I keep saying, we are being run by those unconscious programs that parents, school, trauma, and TV programmed into our unconscious minds during the early years of our life, which formed our brain's operating system and developed our ego, or you might say our sense of self with a little s. And these unconscious programs, they are running the show. Though very often people with anxiety and OCD often think that they should be consciously in control, when evident they're not. So though we are the rider of our horse, the horse can still run itself, like in sleep, or in a coma, or in dementia, where our logical, rational, conscious mind is elsewhere, and the body just gets on with what it needs to do. However, when we can see ourselves as the observer, or the self with a capital S, we can begin to consciously influence our horse and reprogram those old unconscious animal egoic behaviors. However, we replicators, we now live in a strange commercial, capitalist, consumer-driven world that we were never designed to live in. I guess we could even argue that the world is probably overpopulated, which flies directly in the face of this inner biological drive to reproduce. And like I said in earlier videos, you can say, ooh, this is not good, or you could say, ah, interesting. How are we humans going to adapt? Will we just fight harder to stay the same, or will we begin to develop and adopt some new perspectives? Our old conditioning tends to say, work hard, be successful, be nice, kind, fair, get the house, get the pension, and all that. But as a therapist, I can't tell you how many men sit in my office and say, John, I'm working so hard to provide for my family, but I hardly have any time to be with them. And when I am at home, I'm exhausted. And women have very similar stories, often added, I know this sounds awful, but I would love to be a stay-at-home mother, a homemaker, which of course, evolutionarily speaking, is absolutely natural. I guess my point is, we can be anybody we wish to be if we can stop identifying with how we were programmed. We can work hard or not, Who said you even have to work? You could go surfing, okay? We can go and live in another country, travel, start a business. Perhaps we need to start thinking bigger, or at least thinking differently. You can do almost anything if you stop identifying with the programmed identity in your mind of who you think you should or shouldn't or ought to be. Okay, let's get back to purpose. Temporarily, could becoming the best replicator you can become be your new temporary purpose? So as you replicate, your offspring are becoming your best work. You are their role model, you are their teacher. Or if you don't have children, you become your best person. You reparent yourself by asking, if I did have a child, and they were acting as I am, what sensible advice might I give them for their best life, okay? And then to take that advice yourself. Let me try and give you an example. If your OCD was forcing you to check your front door 20 times to see if it's locked, and then you worried all day long about it, you might say to your virtual child self, check it once, that's enough. We have house insurance, there's nothing else to worry about. You stop giving your thoughts and feelings any meaning, you just ignore them. Can you see what a different perspective that is? How would okay, how would you be programming them for their best unfearful, adventurous and trusting life? Would you do it by instilling within them fear and negative emotions and pessimism? Or would you do it through calmness, acceptance, courage, self-esteem, teaching them how to take action and how to be more optimistic? Plus, regardless of whether you have children or not, you can still become the best role model for those around you, to become the best person you can be, to rise above your current situation. Not to change others, but to show others that change is possible. To be the one that took action when others were too scared. Remember that strength, courage and bravery, they're all about feeling vulnerable but still taking action towards a better life, whilst accepting that you don't know if it will work. However, you still consciously and continuously and optimistically keep talking yourself and encouraging yourself into taking action. I hope this is making sense. Now, for those of you like me who only started learning all this once our children were already grown up or that they had already been domesticated, let's not beat ourselves up. We can accept that we did back then the best we could given what we knew at that time based upon how we'd been conditioned and how we'd been domesticated ourselves. Yeah? And even if our children may be upset at how we behaved back then, it's never too late, okay, for them to see us change, okay? As we begin to know better, we can begin to do better, okay? And to do it in a way based in self-love, self-respect and self-worth. Perhaps another way to look at this is, can we break our old programmed ancestral family patterns, the behaviours and traditions that perhaps are no longer relevant for these times? It used to be acceptable for parents to smack children or put pressure on them to adopt family trades like being a lawyer or a doctor or in the army. And even if we've already installed some of these patterns in our children, I think it's never too late to recognise that we can choose to consciously try and break those behaviours by talking to them and by becoming the best role model in the now that we possibly can. It might take a generation or two, We may have to interact with our grandchildren in new ways, but at least we are taking positive action for the future. And remember, unless you begin to program yourself, you'll be run by your old programs or that of the family, culture, religion, the government, or whatever beliefs you're exposed to the most. Now, it just so happens that the word replicator also turns out to be a useful mnemonic for much of what we're learning. The R stands for reprogrammable. We are reprogrammable, and that's a fact. The E stands for energy. Make sure your emotional battery is recharged by worrying less, getting enough sleep and detaching from all the mind's stories. And we discharge your atomic battery by revisiting past negative experiences and learning how to release trapped trauma. The P stands for placebo. Placebo works. Get into the habit of consciously placeboing your unconscious mind and your body at all times. The L stands for love. Remember, if you don't love yourself, it may be hard to believe that another person could love you. Try to love others the way that they want to be loved, and try to stop looking for evidence that anybody loves you. The I stands for intuition, because as you move away from anxiety and closer to calmness, an inner intuition will begin to emerge. We do just intrinsically know what is good for us or bad for us, and we can begin to trust ourselves much, much more. As I keep saying, the C stands for courage. To feel vulnerable yet still take action is the definition of courage, regardless of the outcome in any moment. The A stands for action. Can you become a person of action? Because then your life will present far more opportunities. The T stands for time. There is only now. Everything else is just a virtual reality story in your head. And it's only what you do now, in this now, that will affect and change your future. O stands for observer. You are not your mind, you are the observer of your mind. And then finally, the R of replicator stands for repetition. The unconscious mind needs lots and lots of repetition before it updates itself, okay? And just because you consciously know something, it doesn't mean your unconscious has got it and understands it just yet. So repetition is key. And one final thought on life purpose or meaning. You have two ways of looking at it. If you strive for success, your life will have meaning. However, you can also do nothing. Okay? You can do anything you want if you're happy with your life not having meaning. Therefore, be careful of how you define success and meaning, and check that the definition of success is what you choose it to be and not what was programmed into you when you were young or during growing up. For me, I think success is being happy and doing what you love doing. And because I get a lot of meaning from my work, outside of my work, I can just do whatever I want without feeling like I ought to be achieving anything. I also try to live my life with my chosen values, those of calmness, integrity, honesty, nurturing, and respect. So, in this next section,